Hello, family. This is your friend, Kenesha, and I'm back here again with another episode of Black Lives Matter. That's right. Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. But right now, we're talking about why Black Lives Matter. And the specific thought for today is the virus of racism. We are in a dualistic pandemic. Number one, or the first one, technically for this year, we'll say that, was COVID-19, Corona. But the second one broke out, or there was a resurgence of it, and it's the virus of racism. So let's see what virus means. I looked it up, several definitions, but I want to read this to you. It says a virus is a microscopic parasite that can infect living organisms and cause disease. A microscopic. So it means it's not always visible to the human eye. You sometimes need something, in this case, a microscope, to bring it to the surface, but it was always there. It can make copies of itself inside another organism's cell. So it can be duplicitous and copy itself inside of itself. It says viruses consist, and then it goes into the technical part, medical part, of a nucleic acid and a protein coat. And it says that the cell then bursts open, spreading the newly created viruses. So what we saw with George Floyd was a breaking open of the nucleus of the cell of the virus called racism. It was duplicitous because the officer and officers were not the first to have it. They just perpetuated this virus, though microscopic, it was always there. So a quote that I heard today, which blew my mind, this whole topic of the virus of racism came from my pastors, Bishop Jesse Giddens, Dr. Helene Giddens. As soon as I heard them preach to us from the word of God about what God thinks about racism, he detests it. And when they said the virus of racism, I picked up on it because it's exactly what it is. And they said a person in the church institution said that the church has to pay restitution. And here was what the sentence was. It says, because racism was in the amniotic fluid and the birthing of this nation. Heavy. We're going to say this again. This was the church admitting that racism started in this country, and the church was part of the reason why it perpetuated. So let me read this again. This is from a prominent church person that said this, that admitted to this, that racism was in the amniotic fluid in the birthing of this nation. So the virus at the conception of this nation was in the nucleus of its very first cell. And then it was duplicitous and duplicated, but it was there from the beginning. Think about that. So I say, Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. Of course they do. But right now, we're talking about why Black Lives Matter. Let me ask you this. If you're frustrated with these conversations and upset with these conversations, have you ever felt the need to take a stand for your race and say that blank lives matter? Have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to call attention to your race because you felt like it was oppressed or neglected? Possibly if you're frustrated. I'm just predicting the answer to that is possibly no. In this beautiful country called America, back in the 1800s, and it was in our Constitution, I would have been considered not a whole human being. The 3/5 part of our Constitution, it said that I was 3/5 of a human. Now, when I look at me, I see a full-grown woman who's trying to shrink. I need to lose some weight, some more weight. I'm doing well, but I need to lose a bit more. So I don't see 3/5 of a person. I see a full person. But my beautiful country, called my great-great-great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandfather, they were not considered a full human being. I want you to take a look at your coins and notice that one of them has our wonderful president on it who fought for the abolition of slavery. And his coin is copper. And his face is turning the other way. And you know what was said of him? They gave him a coin that was of least value, a penny. And they said he doesn't deserve to look the same way as the other presidents. And I just want you to prep for it because he was a nigger lover. So they had to honor him, but they honored him for being a nigger lover by giving him the brown coin and turning his face the other way. My wonderful country called America. Black lives matter. All lives matter. But friends, let's get comfortable with this saying that Black lives matter. Mr. President said that Black Lives Matter movement is a terrorist movement. The president of the free world has stated that the group of people of which I belong to, the fact that we have free rights to speak our thoughts in our mind, and because of the public murder of an African American, which is part of our history, called lynching, he says that essentially I'm a terrorist and he represents me. Black lives, oh, they matter. All lives matter, but Black lives matter.